Imagine a gun so large that it takes 77 people to operate it. A gun with a barrel 66 feet long, roughly the height of a six-story building, that hurls a shell weighing 2,700 pounds a distance of 24 miles and hits what it is aimed at. A gun that can penetrate 32 feet of reinforced concrete, that can create a crater 50 feet wide and 20 feet deep from a single shot. That fired its last round in anger, not in 1945, not in 1953, but in 1991, during a war fought in the desert, against targets that had never been within 1,000 miles of the ocean. A gun that sits today on 4 museum ships anchored in San Pedro, Camden, Pearl Harbor, and Norfolk, that former sailors begged to come back and serve when it was reactivated in the 1980s, that the United States Navy tried 3 times to retire and could not because nothing built to replace it could do what it did. And here is what almost nobody stops to consider. The mission those guns were designed and built to accomplish never happened. Not once. Not in the Pacific, not in the Atlantic, not at any point in the entire history of the United States Navy. This is the story of the Iowa-class battleship's 16-inch guns, and the gap between what they were built for and what they actually did. By the end of this video, you will understand why the most powerful naval guns America ever put to sea were designed for an enemy they never fought, and why the thing they ended up doing instead made them more valuable than anyone who built them ever anticipated. Stay with me, because the engineering decisions behind this gun are considerably stranger than the history books suggest. The Iowa-class 16-inch guns were not built to bombard beaches. They were not built to support amphibious landings. They were not built to shell North Korean positions or Vietnamese supply lines or Iraqi command bunkers. They were built for one purpose: to destroy the Yamato. The Yamato and her sister ship Musashi were the largest, most heavily armed battleships ever constructed by any navy in the history of naval warfare. Each displaced 65,000 tons. Each carried 9 18.1-inch guns, the largest naval cannon ever put to sea, capable of throwing a 3,200-pound shell 26 miles. Their armor belt was 16 inches of hardened steel. Japanese naval doctrine had produced a specific answer to American numerical superiority: build individual ships so powerful that no single American ship could survive an engagement with them. The Iowa class was the American answer to that doctrine. To understand the specific engineering decisions behind the 16-inch guns, you have to go back to 1938 and a problem that was becoming impossible to ignore. Japan had refused to ratify the London Naval Treaty of 1935. This triggered what naval architects called the escalator clause, a provision that automatically raised the allowable displacement limit for capital ships from 35,000 tons to 45,000 tons the moment any major naval power declined to ratify. The United States Navy suddenly had 10,000 additional tons to work with. The question before Admiral Thomas C. Hart and the General Board was how to use them. 2 schools of thought emerged immediately. The first argued for a slow, heavily armored ship: more protection, more guns, less speed. This concept would eventually become the Montana class: 12 16-inch guns, massive armor, 27 knots. The Montana would have been the most heavily protected American battleship ever built. Congress approved 2 of them. None were ever completed. The success of carrier aviation at Coral Sea and Midway made the Montana obsolete before her keel touched water. The second school argued for speed, not comfort with speed, not willingness to accept speed as a trade-off. Speed is the entire design philosophy. A ship fast enough to run with the aircraft carriers, catch anything it wanted to catch, and destroy anything that tried to stop it. This concept became the Iowa class. Her 4 ships, Iowa, New Jersey, Missouri, and Wisconsin, were laid down between 1940 and 1941. Each displaced 45,000 tons. Each could reach 33 knots, faster than any battleship previously built by any navy. The hull was 887 feet long and 108 feet wide, constrained specifically to fit through the locks of the Panama Canal. Every dimension of the Iowa class was shaped by either the Yamato threat or the Panama Canal. There was no dimension that was not a direct response to one of those two constraints. The guns were the same. Here is the detail about the 16-inch Mark VII guns that most accounts skip past. The design process contained a miscommunication that changed the entire weapon. In 1938, the Bureau of Ordnance and the Bureau of Construction and Repair were working simultaneously on Iowa's specifications. The Bureau of Ordnance assumed the ships would use the existing 16-inch Mark II guns already in inventory, large, reliable, proven weapons. The Bureau of Construction and Repair, working from different assumptions, designed the ship's gun turret barbettes, the circular armored housings that the turrets rotate within, too small to physically accommodate the Mark II gun and its turret. The discovery came too late in the design process to change the hull. The solution was to design an entirely new gun. The result was the 16-inch 50 caliber Mark VII. 50 calibers means the barrel length is 50 times the bore diameter, 50 times 16 inches, which gives a barrel 66.7 feet long from chamber to muzzle. Each gun weighed 267,900 pounds with the breech attached. That is the weight of 180 family cars. The Mark VII was originally designed to fire a 2,240-pound armor-piercing shell, the Mark V. But before any Iowa-class keel was laid, the shell handling system was redesigned to accommodate a heavier projectile, the Mark VIII Super Heavy Shell. It weighed 2,700 pounds, and it was fired at a muzzle velocity of 2,500 feet per second. Here is where it gets interesting. The Mark VIII Super Heavy Shell gave the Mark VII gun, with its smaller 16-inch bore, penetrating power roughly equivalent to the Yamato's 18.1-inch guns. American engineers had found a way to close the caliber gap through shell weight and ballistic design rather than barrel diameter. At 20,000 yards, the Mark VIII could penetrate 20 inches of hardened steel armor. The Yamato's belt armor was 16 inches thick. The gun that was created by a bureaucratic miscommunication turned out to be more effective than the gun it was designed to replace. If you're finding this as fascinating as I am, go ahead and hit the like button. It helps more people find this channel. The most important part of this story is still ahead. Each Mark VII gun sat inside a turret that extended 5 decks below the main deck. 77 people operated each gun. Not each turret, but each gun. 3 guns per turret, 3 turrets per ship, 9 guns total, 693 people whose sole function was to keep those guns loaded, aimed, and firing. A full 9-gun broadside, fired simultaneously, produced a shockwave powerful enough to curve the surface of the water below the ship into a bowl shape and shatter windows on the vessel itself. The fire control system was the most advanced of any naval gun ever built. The Iowa class carried radar-guided targeting equipment that could calculate a firing solution at the gun's maximum effective range in conditions where optical rangefinders were useless, at night, in poor weather, or through smoke. The Japanese Yamato relied primarily on optical rangefinders. In daylight at long range, those systems were excellent. In anything less than perfect visibility, the advantage disappeared entirely. This was deliberate. The Mark VII and its fire control system were designed for exactly one scenario: a gun duel with the Yamato class, fought at maximum range, in any weather, at 33 knots. Every design decision pointed at that single engagement. That engagement never took place. The closest the Iowa class and the Yamato class came to each other was at the Battle of Leyte Gulf in October 1944. Admiral Halsey took the Iowa class north to chase Japanese decoy carriers. The Yamato went south in an attempt to reach the American amphibious fleet. The two most powerful classes of battleships ever built by their respective navies spent the entire battle moving in opposite directions, and they never came within firing range of each other. The Yamato was sunk on April 7, 1945, not by battleship guns, but by 386 American carrier aircraft. It took 11 torpedo hits and 6 bomb strikes to bring her down. The Musashi had been sunk the previous October by similar means. The 18.1-inch guns that the Mark VII had been specifically engineered to penetrate never fired at an American ship in a surface engagement. The war ended without the gun duel the Mark VII had been built to win. What happened next is the part of this story that changes how you see the entire history of the Iowa class. From 1944 to 1991, across 47 years, 4 wars, and 5 presidential administrations, the Mark 7 guns fired their shells almost exclusively at land targets, North Korean troop concentrations, and supply lines along the coast, Vietnamese logistics routes, and North Vietnamese positions, Iraqi command bunkers, and artillery batteries in Kuwait. In Korea, USS New Jersey shelled positions at Wonsan, Yangyang, and Kansong. On May 24, 1951, she destroyed a railway bridge and 3 ammunition dumps in a single day of fire. In Vietnam, New Jersey returned to service in 1968 and fired 5,688 16-inch shells in less than a year. That was more shells than some Iowa-class ships fired during the entirety of World War II. In 1991, during Operation Desert Storm, USS Wisconsin fired her guns for the first time since March 1952. She sent shells 19 miles into southern Kuwait to destroy an Iraqi artillery battery. USS Missouri, the ship on whose deck Japan had formally surrendered 46 years earlier, shelled an Iraqi command and control bunker near the Saudi border. It was the last time in history that a battleship fired its guns in combat. Here is the central irony that the engineers of 1938 did not design for. The 2,700-pound Mark 8 armor-piercing shell, built to penetrate 16 inches of hardened battleship steel, turned out to be extraordinarily effective against reinforced concrete. At 20,000 yards, it could penetrate 21 feet of reinforced concrete. The shell that was engineered to kill the Yamato was, by accident, one of the most effective bunker-busting weapons ever built. The mission the gun was never designed for, shore bombardment against hardened land targets, was the mission it performed better than anything the United States built to replace it. The Navy tried to retire the Iowa class 3 times after World War II. Each time, a new conflict demonstrated that nothing in the fleet could deliver the volume and weight of fire that the 16-inch guns could place on a shoreline. In 1981, Congress directed the Reagan administration to reactivate all 4 ships as part of the 600-ship Navy. Former sailors wrote letters requesting recall to active duty. The Navy received more requests than it had positions to fill. The guns were fitted with Tomahawk cruise missiles and Harpoon anti-ship weapons during the 1980s modernization. The ships became the only vessels in history to carry both 16-inch guns and long-range cruise missiles simultaneously. In 1989, USS Iowa set the record for the longest-range accurate fire in naval history, striking a target at 26.9 miles under controlled conditions. That same year, on April 19, 1989, a powder charge in Turret 2 ignited during a gunnery exercise. The explosion killed 47 sailors and damaged the turret beyond economic repair. USS Iowa was decommissioned the following year. She never fired her guns in Desert Storm. Her 3 sister ships did. Wisconsin fired her last combat round in February 1991. Missouri followed. The battleship era ended not in the Pacific in 1945, but in the Persian Gulf in 1991, against a country that possessed no navy capable of threatening either ship. The guns built to fight the Yamato fired their final combat shots at targets in the desert. Here is what the Iowa-class 16-inch guns actually were when you strip away the mythology and look at the engineering record plainly. They were designed in 1938 to penetrate the armor of a Japanese battleship that was never completed until 1941 and was never sunk by a surface ship. They were built from a miscommunication between 2 Navy bureaus that produced a new gun which outperformed the one it replaced. They fired their first shots in anger at a Japanese destroyer, set the record for the longest-range straddle in naval history, and never once engaged an enemy battleship in the surface duel they were designed to win. Instead, they spent 47 years firing at hillsides, bridges, bunkers, supply lines, and artillery batteries across 4 wars on 3 continents, performing a mission their designers considered secondary at best, and performing it better than anything the United States subsequently built to take their place. The Yamato is on the bottom of the East China Sea, sunk by aircraft. The Iowa class is in 4 American harbors, preserved as museums. Neither ship fired at the other, and the guns that were built to end the battleship age by destroying the Yamato instead outlasted it, firing their last round in anger against a desert nation in 1991, doing a job nobody in 1938 imagined they would ever need to do, more effectively than any weapon that was actually designed for it.